All right, and I'm going to pass it over to Sarah to start us off for today. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Rebecca. Welcome, everybody, to this 30-minute power session about Beyond Multiple Choice, what makes an assessment truly 3D. I'm Sarah Torres, the Executive Director for Arizona Science Teachers Association. And if you could just take a moment to put your name in the chat and where what your location is and position and the grade level. And if you're new to our power, if this is your first time joining us for this power session, just kind of put the word new so we see who's uh, new to these wonderful sessions that we hold monthly for free for administrators. And it's always great to see people from all over. And with me today, again, you go ahead. Thank you. Hi, Johanna. Hi, Wayne. Good to have you here. Rachel and Lisa. With me today is Rebecca Gorelli. She will be helping us as leading us through part of our time together. She is our professional learning specialist with Arizona Science Teachers Association. As Rebecca shared, if you were here just a few minutes ago, she shared that we hold these monthly. And today you're with Beyond Multiple Choice, what makes an assessment truly 3D. We will have one next month about launching the school year and how do you support those science educators. We're going to take June and July off, and then we'll be back in the fall for these sessions. We know how busy you are. Inside the chat where we have our digital digest. This is our resource collection that we will utilize during our time together. All the resources that Rebecca and I discuss will be right here in this one source for you. So as we think about our session today, this is like you to take a look at what we will be doing. I'll give you a moment to read the screen about what we will be learning today. All about assessment. I know we just finished our statewide assessments here and really thinking about, well, those statewide assessments, but what about what we do every day as educators? We're assessing constantly and looking at how we can improve the assessments we use in our classrooms. Let's go ahead, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
So in the chat, we're going to do a quick waterfall. If you're not sure how that goes, I'm going to ask you to respond in the chat, but please do not hit enter until I count down for waterfall. So why do you think multiple choice assessments remain a common choice for science teachers? And not just a common choice for science teachers, I think it's a common choice for all educators. Why do you think multiple choice assessments remain a common choice for science teachers? You can go ahead and put that in the chat. When I count down for waterfall, we'll hit enter. Okay, I'm going to count down. And then when I get down to one, you can go ahead and hit enter. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, waterfall. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they're easy to grade. You can get the quick vibe on how students are doing. Many of them are pre-made with your curriculum resources. And so that can be automatic. That automatic grading, mainly if you use a Google form, they're can give you a quick chance of seeing whether students know it or not know it. Ah, thank you. And yeah, Lisa, many educators were taught through their own schooling. That's how they were taught by using those multiple choice. And maybe that's what they're comfortable with, and to do anything differently might feel a little uncomfortable. That's all those things, right? And we want the ease of them, They're quick, students know how to use them. It's also sometimes we see those on statewide assessments and college assessments, so it gives our teachers, the students, the opportunity to learn that. So all of those are great reasons why we use multiple choice assessments. The key question is, we want to continue, Rebecca. Is that the only assessment that they're using, and what quality they are? And are they three-dimensional, right? Our standards, as a reminder, are three-dimensional standards. They are practices of what the students are doing. Does the multiple choice question that you're using have the students thinking about the engagement of the practices? Or is it mainly just about the core idea, what students know? And does it help them think about how their students thinking, the cross-cutting concepts? And so if these are our standards, Rebecca,
Mm-hmm.
when we look at our standards, if we're in fourth grade collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to explain weather and climate patterns, is there a multiple choice question that has all of those three concepts in there, all three dimensions? Or is it the definition is what's the difference? What is climate? The or what is weather? The daily temperatures, right? So is it just that narrow part, or is it talking about the systems or the patterns when you're looking at these? So we really want our um, assessments, whatever they are, and today we're talking about multiple choice, to be more three-dimensional. And we're going to give you some ideas on how that you can support your teachers in doing that. They need to be woven together. Our three dimensions, our standards, that they're like this rope, and you can't just do one little strand of it because it's too weak. And if we're really taking a look at how students are learning, we need to have all three woven together. Because, Rebecca, we have been spending, I know you have been spending a lot of time and finances and supporting your teachers, your educational leaders to be utilizing three-dimensional instructional strategies. You've been doing that. They're learning, they're teaching that way. Your students are learning three-dimensionally. But are your assessment, is that three-dimensional? These need to be aligned. You can't teach one way and assess a different way. They have to be aligned. And so that is what we're going to really work on to help you think about those multiple choice questions to see if they're three-dimensional and how you can improve those with a few tweaks. I'm going to pass the baton off to Rebecca so that she can kind of review some traditional multiple choice items and then think about how we can improve. Rebecca?
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And so we're going to take a look at some traditional style items. The first one looks like this. And as I show you, I'm going to show you two examples. I want you to think of what is this item assessing and what dimension or dimensions. So take a look at this middle school example. And when we look at this example, thinking about, okay, if I were to dive into this example and try to color code this question to represent the blue, orange, green pieces, this would actually just really be orange because this is only assessing the core idea or content. This is a typical style question. Might be good for an exit ticket or a quick check idea, but it definitely doesn't measure anything but one dimension and more of like a recall kind of item. It does not have evidence of engaging in a practice or a thinking lens or cross-cutting concept. So this is what we call a one-dimensional item. Let's take a look at another one. This is one I saw when I first moved to Arizona on, what was the name of the old test? Ames, Galileo, what Ames? Was that what it was? I forget. And I remember coming from a different district in Chicago where we had already shifted to three-dimensional, and I was shocked at this style of question being on the state assessment because it only really measures that one dimension, right? How long is the moon cycle? Very typical question. This is also a very narrow assessment. This is a recall question, only asking about a content piece. So this is only, if I were to color code this, it would all be orange to represent that this is just one dimensional, does not have students engaging in a practice, not analyzing data, thinking about causes, etc. Nothing about modeling, constructing explanations. So this again is a one-dimensional assessment. And so what do items that, if we're trying to go beyond that multiple choice, right? Those recall, low level, kind of like your rote memorizing questions where you just regurgitate a fact, and that's really narrow in the dimensions. Like, what do these things look like if they have 2 or 3 dimensions? So I'm going to show you a set, like an item cluster. So a set of items that go together for one standard. And the standard I'm going to use is this one. 6th grade, again, with moon phases in it, but way more robust. So I'll be quiet. I invite you to kind of read the standard. And then these 2 bullets represent the core idea elements, those specific pieces of knowledge and skill that go with this standard. So when you look at the color coding, we have something about, right, modeling and constructing an explanation. This is really kind of a combined 2 practices in one. We have this content piece, how eclipses, moon phases, and tides occur. Moon phases is here, so it might be, okay, can we use that middle school, that item I just showed you on moon cycle days? Sure, but that's not going to get us to where we need to go. It's not robust enough. It's just a recall of a fact. And so you'll notice that this standard requires a lot more heavy lifting, engaging in practicing, looking for patterns. There has to be models inside of this. So items need to reflect that if they're going to be using these items to assess the standard. So here's an example. Here's a question that could be in kind of like a set of a multi-component questions, sets of items to go with this standard. So read this, and then on the next slide, I'm going to show you how I color coded it to represent the dimensions that I found. So looks like this. What causes an eclipse of a moon? That goes beyond the definition of an eclipse. A typical multiple choice question might say, an eclipse is blank, right? Or what is an eclipse? And then the choices would be the definition of an eclipse. This goes a little bit beyond typical multiple choice because it embeds the cause of the phenomenon, which is the eclipse. So this is a 2-dimensional item. You can see the green and the blue. Take a look at this question. And think, what dimensions are inside of here? This one, at first glance, to me, whenever I see the terms why does, I know I'm in constructing explanations land because I'm trying to account for how or why a phenomenon is occurring. So this is a 2-dimensional item that goes with this standard and is part of this kind of cluster. Here's a typical one. Some curriculums have these models where students manipulate, and some even state tests have items that look like this, right? But it has a model in it. It's not about a recall fact. So they have to look at the model and predict, which is part of modeling, is to explain or predict. So we have this predicting component of the model. So at first glance, when I read this item, here's the dimensions I found. It actually is a 3-dimensional item because I have to understand the system and how parts of it are moving. I have to know modeling in order to predict. And part of that system is that cycle, right? These things go through a cycle. So this I could even put patterns if I wanted to, because this is really about the patterns of the cycles in the system. So this is a 3-dimensional item. This one, use your model to demonstrate. So again, when we start to hear words like in the model, place something along the path or draw things out, develop a model to explain. Now we've gone beyond multiple choice and we're entering 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions and going way beyond recall of facts. And so something like this, where students would be sketching and drawing and using those to explain and predict, is a classic three-dimensional item that goes beyond recall and has the kids engaging and doing sense making. So we're going to look at some more samples so you can start to think about like how are you going to support your community, your teachers with thinking about items and how to analyze items. So for our examples, we're going to start with an Open SIAD middle school assessment called the soccer assessment. This is part of a unit all on collisions and contact forces, just to give you context. So we're going to come over to the resource collection and your first one, let's open number 2. It should look like this. And I should see you coming in here to kind of take a look. Here you come. Thank you. Thank you. So number 2. And so I'll just frame what we're going to do right now. Now that it looks like most of you are in here, here we go. All right. I'm going to give you time in the alone zone to kind of review the assessment. I have already done the color coding for you. So take a look at the color coding. You should see blue, orange, green. And I tried to like put like a call out if it's 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional. So just, I didn't want you to have to do too much heavy lifting. So take a look at these items. This is part of an assessment, right? So a multi-component assessment. And where I want you to focus is question 2A and 2B. And think, how did those items go beyond a one-dimensional traditional multiple choice item? So I'll be quiet while you take a look. If you've already looked at 2A and B, then take a look at 3A and B and consider how those go beyond multiple choice. Okay, about 30 seconds left, and then we're just going to think about that question. How did the assessment go beyond one-dimensional multiple choice items? All right. So in the chat, what's a quick strategy you noticed? There were multiple choice items in there, but how did the assessment go beyond? What did you see? What evidence do we have of going beyond multiple choice? What kinds of things happened in this task? Yeah, it's super simple. Explain the reasoning, right? Go beyond a recall or a simple action. Yes, not only were they multiple choice, you have to explain. Think about that strategy. When we use multiple choice, can we say, what is your reason for choosing that? Can you use science to explain? Tell us your reasoning. So great, explaining pictures, right? So we took this sort of multiple choice and made it a little more robust. We went beyond. Same with this one. It's not just, did you get the right answer? That doesn't tell me much, but why did you choose that answer? What's your rationale, right? Like, what are you thinking? Make your thinking visible. So, to push it beyond, we ask them to make their thinking visible. Key strategy. So, I think you noticed it. So, here we go. Good job on that one. We're going to now switch gears. That was just one example. It's not the only example out there. I brought you some more to think about. And the ones I'm going to show you now come from this book from Brett Molding called A Vision and Plan for Science Teaching and Learning. It has a lot of stuff in there about what assessment items could look like if you kind of have a cluster or multiple questions for a standard to try to assess that standard. So, the context for the set you're going to see is focusing on rock layers and the formation of the Colorado Plateau and asking students to use evidence to explain how geological processes occur over time. So, think rock layers. And what I want to show you is an exercise that I created for a webinar I did recently with teachers on how do you analyze items to ask yourself, is it one dimensional, two dimensional, or three dimensional? And if we find a one dimensional item, how might we revise it to improve it? So, what you're about to look at is the answer key of me working through these items. So, we're going to open number 4 in the resource collection. It's called this one, the answer key, which is number 4. I did provide a blank version in case you wanted to try this with educators or a team of folks. But open the answer key so you can I'm going to kind of have you start here with like when I put in here, there are 6. Okay, so let's walk through what this is because it's a little crazy. Here is the performance expectation or the standard. These are from NGSS because that's what the book is where I found these. It's all NGSS questions. Then here's the question. And then part of it is trying to color code the question to look for dimensionality. Do I see blue, orange, and green? And then just writing notes on the side. So marking it, color coding it, etc. For number 1, keep an eye out on this note. As you're thinking about it, I did revise the question over here because I noticed it was more on the one-dimensional side. So I just wanted to call that out as you go on your journey. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about this exercise and how might you use something like this to support your community, your teachers with moving beyond one-dimensional items. So I'll give you 2 minutes to kind of review that answer key. Okay, about 10 seconds left. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some examples. I showed you like sitting down with items you might already have developed is a really good exercise to ask, are these one-dimensional, two-dimensional, or three-dimensional? And what evidence do I have that supports that thinking? So wanted to show you a couple things. We can go beyond multiple choice, and there's two ways of doing that, right? You can revise items like I did for this question, and come up with a new way. And in this one, I added in a cross-cutting concept and reworked it a little bit. So can you add in a science and engineering practice or a cross-cutting concept? Does the item need to be completely revamped? Or could you add a prompt like OpenSciEd did, where they draw and write and explain the reason for their choice? So a reminder that items, if we're saying what we're like our alignment of instruction and assessment is really what we value, right? If we value three-dimensional instruction, then our assessments need to be aligned. So every item does not need to be three-dimensional. That is incredibly difficult to do. So the rule kind of is minimum of two. It can be orange and green, it can be blue and orange, but none of these by themselves. We do not assess in one dimensions. And it can be all three. So if assessment is something you would like more support with, we are offering this 3-day assessment academy over the summer, and the registration is now open. So check out our events page if this is something you'd be interested in. And thank you for being here. We always value feedback. So we have a quick, tiny feedback form. If you want to tell us new ideas that you'd like us to build sessions on, or things you think your teachers need support with science, we'd be happy to build things. Just let us know. And if you are interested in learning about the OpenSciEd high quality instructional material, we are going to do an optional presentation. You just stay on this link right now and we'll move into the OpenSciEd presentation. If you're not interested in learning about OpenSciEd, feel free to exit the Zoom space. And thank you for coming. Hope you took away a couple ideas today on how to go beyond multiple choice. So thanks so much for being here.